I wanted to respond to one or two of your comments, particularly about Phillip Schofield. Zulu Warrior says, Tim, I'll totally agree with you on this one, because a certain Paz49 YouTube channel is going on like Dan Wootton about Phillip Schofield. I looked up Paz49. I thought it's one of these very strange channels where we don't see the face of the person who is talking, and that's always a little bit disturbing. But he talks about Phillip Schofield comparing himself to Caroline Flack. I'll come back to this in a minute, but this is what he says. I don't know whether I can play it.
She had an affair with Harry Styles when he was very young indeed. I think it was between 15 and 17. So Caroline Flack liked them young as well, but nothing was ever said about that, weirdly. Then again, it's because she was a woman, she probably gets a free pass, but there we go. Make of that what you will.
Well, I do. I think it's misogynistic, and I think it's contemptible. And I think from somebody who doesn't show his face on camera, ex-British Army Paz49, well, I'm not surprised he's ex-British Army with the sort of cowardice that he displays on his YouTube. I think that's contemptible. And I also think, let's take this a little bit further. Hooch says, I lost any sympathy I may have had for Schofield when he compared himself to Caroline Flack. She's dead and he's not. Well, he makes a habit of looking for sympathy and dragging others into his self-inflicted tragedy, especially his wife and children, which says everything about the guy. If he needs help, I'm sure he can afford the best psychiatrist available, unlike the thousands who do away with themselves yearly. Well, you know, there's a lot of frustration in that statement, and a lot of truth there. I don't think. Well, I don't know whether Schofield was comparing himself to Caroline Flack in the way that Hooch is suggesting. He may have been. It may have been a code for I feel suicidal. But I think genuinely he could compare himself to Caroline Flack, because what he's dealing with is the overarching control and contempt that ITV producers have for their, quote, talent. The moment they become dangerous or greater than or a distraction from the program, they're out of the door. We can think of Dan Wootton, we can think of Eamon Holmes, we can think of Caroline Flack, we can think of Phillip Schofield. They are more ruthless than the Conservative Party. And from that point of view, yes, I think ITV has a lot to explain about the death of Caroline Flack, because it's more than just her having an argument with her boyfriend. It was about her being suddenly sacked from a job she was doing very effectively. I mean, it's not a job I particularly respected in that sense. I think Love Island is a scurrilous program. But I think she performed very well. And I also think, even someone like Dan Wootton, I don't think he deserved to be thrown off the show so quickly. I certainly don't think Eamon Holmes deserved that. And actually, I think Phillip Schofield has been treated very shabbily. Now, there's stories coming out that maybe Phillip Schofield is part of an arrangement so that he takes the flak and production hides behind him. But that's the problem. And that's the connection with Caroline Flack. So whether Phillip Schofield knows what he was saying or not, he has drawn a very interesting comparison between himself and Caroline Flack. And I think it goes further even than the ITV bosses. I think it goes to government, because government had an opportunity to look into this and they ducked that responsibility, that opportunity during the 2019 election. Once the election was over, they didn't reconvene the committee. And I have written countless times to the Secretary of State for Digital Culture, Media and Sport, whoever that may be, whether the current chairman of the Conservative Party, whether the person running around in Talk TV, Nadine Dorries, whether Michelle Donnellan, or the current Secretary of State, none of them have the courtesy to actually answer. And they're ducking that responsibility because I think they're fully aware that they have blood on their hands. They have an opportunity to do something, to change the way television works, because television isn't going to change itself. Because television is looking for the bucks, and it doesn't care how many people get hurt or die in the process, as long as they're raking in the money for themselves. And this is cheap television. And what we're interested, I don't think we should be drawing a distinction between drama and reality TV. I think we should be looking at the difference between serious television, like, for example, Game of Thrones or the news, and cheap television, like reality TV or these sofa efforts. Now, I think a sofa effort has every reason to command credibility, but it is also cheap television, and somebody is raking it in as the viewer figures climb. And that somebody is the production staff, the production crew, the producers. They are raking it in. And as long as the golden boy and girl are beaming with innocence and reading the words on the script, they're fine. It's when reality intrudes. In the same way with reality TV, that isn't about reality. It's about following a script that nobody has seen. And it is completely controlled by production. The problem is that production wants to control these people's lives outside the studio. And that should be stopped. And actually, I don't see any reason why production should get a reason whether Phillip Schofield is having an affair. I think there are security issues, and I think there are safeguarding issues. But, are we saying that somebody is not entitled to their private life? I also think, against that statement, that there is an issue of power. And if Phillip Schofield was the star, and if what Phillip wants, what Phillip gets, then a relationship between him and a runner is very, very dodgy. I know the BBC and ITV are at pains not to name this fellow, but you only have to search on the internet and his photograph is everywhere. And, he's got a show reel out there, which was designed by Phillip Schofield. And he's good. He's good. And I don't understand why no one's using his name. It's sort of like Voldemort. I don't understand why no one's using his name.